Welcome back to Switzer on Australia's Business Channel. The Social Services Minister, Scott Morrison, has advised retirees to start spending their super and forget about leaving it to their kids. So what's the thinking behind this, and won't it eventually create more pensioners at a time when the government's trying to reduce the number of people on the pension? I've asked Paul Rickard, the champion writer on the Switzer Super Report, to try and work this one out. Paul, what's going on?
That's a hard one to answer, Peter. Look, I think what's going on at the moment, of course, is we have this sort of debate with the government's changes about the age pension.
Yep.
And there's certainly an argument out there that they've gone a little bit too hard. And, the problem they have at the moment is that the assets test has been reduced so that if you have $823,000 in assets as a couple,
yep,
you're no longer going to be eligible for the pension.
Yep.
And that's going to be about a loss of income of about $10,000 to $12,000
yep,
worse off. The problem is if you had all that money in superannuation, right, which of course was going to be the major financial asset, to generate the same return as the full pension, you'd need to get about a 4.5% return. Now, that's not impossible. No. By no means.
You can't get it safely nowadays.
But get it in term deposits, you can't get it. So I think what he's trying to... That's sort of one of the strains going on. And then the second part, of course, is the realisation from all the data that people are looking at is that a lot of people still leave superannuation to their kids.
They like their kids.
They like their kids. And so I think what the minister's saying here, well, by the way, the pension is meant to be a safety net. If you use up your superannuation assets and get back under the threshold again, then you'll be eligible for the pension. So I think the idea is don't hoard your super, and it's sort of coming out, maybe it's not coming out the way he means it to come out.
Well, this is probably a really important point, and you know the numbers. Most people think that you're forced to take 4% out of your superannuation fund when you retire. But as you get older, it jumps up. And when you're 90, it's about like 11%.
It gets up to 14% if you get up to 95. We'll go through that in a moment,
okay,
Peter.
Fine.
But you do have to take your money out, and it's designed, of course, to make you take money back out of the system. Yeah. It's not there. Super is not meant to be an estate planning tool, although...
We think it is. The government doesn't want it. OK, you've got 5 essential super tasks people should think about before the end of the year. So let's go through.
Yeah, so we are coming up to the end of the year. We're still about a month away, but superannuation takes a little bit of planning. So let's go through sort of the 5 most important things.
OK.
Of course, you've got to have the money to do this, so I'll make that assumption up front. Yeah. The first thing, of course, is if you've got the cash flow, see if you can contribute up to the cap. Now, we've got a chart on the screen that should come up. Of course, we have both concessional and non-concessional contributions. Yep. If you're aged up to 49, the concessional cap is $30,000. If you were 49 at the start of this financial year or older, it's $35,000.
And that includes the compulsory super your boss pays.
That includes the 9.5% that your boss pays, plus any amount your salary sacrifice, and if you're self-employed, an amount you get a tax deduction for. So if you can increase the amount of potentially your salary sacrificing, that's the amount you can put in this financial year. You can do it at any time up until the 30th of June. If you're in a more fortunate situation and you've got some other personal income or personal assets outside superannuation.
A lazy 180,000 just hanging around.
A lazy 180,000, and you want to make what's called a non-concessional contribution, which is your own after-tax money, then that's the cap you can do there.
You can multiply that by 3 if you want to, can't you?
Well, that comes you to the bring forward rule, the next part of the story, Peter, which of course is something that allows you to actually put in 3 years' worth of non-concessional contributions in one go. So potentially you can get $540,000 into super. Now that's particularly useful for a couple that may be thinking about retiring and haven't had a lot of money into superannuation, may want to sell some other assets, and one way to get a lot of money into super very quickly. Now the trap here for young players is you can't do it once you're older than 65. In fact, you have to be 64 years or older to access that rule. So if you're in your mid-60s, turning, still 64 this calendar year, this financial year I should say, and you want to take advantage of the bring forward rule, do it before the 30th of June.
64 or older or 64 or younger?
64 or younger. Once you turn 65, you can't do it.
Yeah, sure.
So if anyone in that sort of age...
Discrimination against over 65-year-olds.
Discrimination against over 65.
OK, the third one, Paul.
OK, so pay on time. Again, this goes back to contributions. Tuesday, the 30th of June this year is a Tuesday.
Thank God for that.
Yeah, that's good.
Over the weekend's a problem, isn't it?
But no, your money's got to be banked by your fund on that day. It doesn't have to be allocated, or if you're running your own fund, it's got to be in the bank account on the 30th of June. If you're making a contribution, say in an industry fund or a retail fund, get it done. Don't leave it to the 30th of June. get it done 3 or 4 days before.
Okay, number 4.
Okay, we talked about this at the outset, Peter. This, of course, if you're taking a superannuation pension.
We've got a chart for this, yep.
And these are the minimum amounts you've got to take out. So if you've moved out of the accumulation phase, you're now taking out an allocated pension out of your super. These are the minimum amounts you've got to take out. So if you're under 65, and you say you had $100,000 worth of assets supporting the payment of a pension, of transition retirement pension, you've got to take 4% out, or $4,000.
Yep.
That goes up, and by the time you get to 95, as you say,
you're going
to take 14% per annum.
It up 90-year-olds.
So this goes back to the problem for the part pension, of course, is that for someone who is getting a part pension, they're going to be at least 65 and a half years of age. They'll be taking somewhere between 5 and 6% out. They're actually going to be taking out, in many cases, more out of their superannuation than it's actually earning, particularly if it's invested in term deposits.
Exactly right.
And running down their super balance.
Especially 80-year-olds, and we're all living with 80s.
And this is partly what the Minister was saying about it. Don't worry about it. The pension is there, still as a safety net.
Oh, yeah, look forward to that. Number 5, Paul.
And if you're running your own self-managed super fund, of course, and it's in the accumulation mode, when you're putting money into super, you are still paying tax. You may have some tax deductions, things like subscriptions, your audit fees, your accounting fees, Switzer super report fees. Look at how you can, what tax deductions you might be able to take.
Okay, now, a really good question from a viewer, and basically the question was, okay, so from Conrad, he said after watching a segment, he has 3 daughters, and
lucky him. I've got 3 daughters.
I thought perfect for you. I realised long ago that the disparity in saving for retirement is not going to go away anytime soon. I put my girls into our self-managed super fund when they reached high school. Under Peter Costello, this was possible. We paid the girls some salary and ensured that they could claim the low-income super boost. When they turned 18, we rolled their funds into an RSA so they could choose what to do when they finished their tertiary training, and gave them a place to put any of the SGC, the compulsory super they gained through casual work. Labor destroyed this arrangement by not allowing children to have super and relieving employers of the requirement to pay underage super, which, by the way, is a huge free kick to McDonald's. That's by the way. Paul, what do you say, Conrad?
Conrad's partly right. I went back through the legislation. I couldn't go back past 2004, but to make us for your employer to pay the compulsory 9.5%, there's sort of 2 exceptions when your employer doesn't pay 9.5%.
Right.
One is either you earn or your employees earn less than $450 in a month, which counts against many casual workers who don't get super. The other is if they're under 18, this is the McDonald's clause, free kick. If they're under 18 and deemed to be a part-time employee, and part-time in the definition in the super land is less than 30 hours a week.
Okay,
so by and large,
a lot.
So he's right. So by and large, kids under 18 don't get superannuation. So I have some sort of sympathy for that because I think there are exceptions that were put in place. Look, at the end of the day, I'm not sure that for an 18-year-old you actually want super in the first place, because it's going to be locked away for 50 plus years, right? Preservation of the age at the moment is 60. It eventually will go up to 65 or even higher by the time an 18-year-old sort of is thinking about accessing their super. So I'm not sure I agree with Conrad's position. I think they'd be better off, if anything, just giving them the money and letting them go investing.
But Paul, I think Conrad's view, and some people hold this view as well, that you've got daughters, you love them, they marry some knucklehead bloke, they eventually break up, there's no money, and they've been out of the workforce for a long time. If they've had, say, 10 years of good super at the early stage, it's a good roll-on factor.
And all the figures show that women have vastly their super accounts on average
too small,
are much smaller than males of the same age. So there is that inherent, that sort of many years of legacy of discrimination there. Look, I think the other thing what he could do is, and what I do for my daughters, is access what's called the superannuation contribution, the co-contribution from the government. It's still up to $500 a year. Okay, and your daughters have got to be doing some part-time work, so they've got to be in the workforce. But if you put $1,000, make a contribution, the government will put in an extra $500. So that's probably the thing to look at.
You might miss out when they're under 18, but as soon as they hit 18 with a part-time job, you can do that.
I mean, in fact, you can do it at any age. In fact, if you're running your own self-managed super fund, someone can be a member of a super fund at any age. There is no minimum age to make a superannuation contribution to. They do need a tax file number, and a minor can get a tax file. So again, you just have to go through a process. But you can actually start making a contribution for them, and maybe they'd be non-concessional contribution.
Which are not bad. They're tax-free. The tax has been paid on the money beforehand, but still, that's a good way around. Have a self-managed super fund, put your daughters into it, and slam some non-concessional contributions.
Or join one of the industry funds. They can still have, get them a tax file number first, but there is no minimum age to be a member of superannuation fund.
Okay, I think it's a pretty good solution. Paul, thanks for joining us on the show.
Thanks, Peter.
Okay, that's Paul Rickard, who, as I say, is a star writer in the Switzer Super Report. So, coming up after the break, we talked to an ACCC Deputy Chairman about the scam merchants out there who are really undermining a lot of people, particularly online.